Hello, I am a woman in my mid-30s. I came across a YouTube video and it made me reflect on my past marriage. My story is about my mother-in-law, sister-in-law, and husband, whom I didn't realize were doing wrong at the time. I want to share all of these stories that I've kept buried inside me. I never imagined I would write about it here. Please listen to my story carefully. My husband and I started dating through a friend's introduction. He was a civil servant and I was a freelance English teacher. He was 3 years older than me and he pushed for marriage from the beginning, saying that I was the one for him. He always said that he wanted me to be the mother of his child if we got married. Thanks to his active efforts, I decided to get married faster than my other friends. I was happy because I thought I had found a good match before anyone else. Although his income was much lower than mine, I didn't think it would be a big problem because I loved him. I was an illegitimate daughter, but my husband had an older sister, who was 1 year older than me and divorced. I didn't know what kind of person she was, and my mother-in-law didn't know her personality either. We had never met before. So, I met my future mother-in-law and sister-in-law for the first time. While preparing for the wedding, my father had passed away when I was young. So my mother-in-law said, "I'm so happy that such a pretty girl like you is becoming our daughter-in-law. No matter how much our son praises you, I'll take good care of you from now on. I hope you'll take good care of my son too. Oh, I'm so full just by listening to you. By the way, where are you planning to live after the wedding? I heard that you're moving to Seoul, because your husband is transferring his job. Well, for now, I'm working in Gyeonggi-do, so I'm going to finish my work there after the wedding. And then we're planning to move to Seoul. It's too hard for me to commute between Seoul and Gyeonggi-do because of my physical condition." "I see. How about living with us during the time you're finishing your work? It's hard to find a proper place to live for a short period of time, and since you and my son have different work hours, I can take care of my son's meals. Think about it. Don't feel burdened. Finding a place to live is not easy. Wouldn't it be inconvenient for you and your son? Thank you for your—" I started my married life at my in-laws' house, after talking to my husband because it didn't seem like my divorced sister-in-law, who lives with my mother-in-law, would be involved much. However, looking back, that decision was wrong from the beginning, because all sorts of housework started from the moment I moved in. Nowadays, what kind of housework is there? I'll write it down from now on. It was shortly after we got married. The day before, I had worked until 1 a.m. with a full day of classes and overtime. And it was the time when my husband was getting ready for work at 7 a.m. I was sleeping at that time. On the other hand, my husband also slept when I was coming home from work. At that moment, who would knock on the door of the couple's room? "Who is it?" I was so surprised that I asked. And my mother-in-law came in and said, "Yina, as I watched you, this is really not right, isn't it? I'm really surprised. Even though the world has changed so much, this is not right." "What is it, mother?" "I was so surprised because you suddenly knocked on the door. Isn't it true that a husband should always prepare breakfast before going to work? A man needs to eat breakfast and pray to work, but you're sleeping like this at home. Oh, I didn't know you were such a useless lover. As I told you yesterday, my husband and I have different working hours. Instead, I work outside while my husband is resting. Whether you finish work at 2 a.m. or 4 a.m., you have to prepare breakfast for your husband. From tomorrow on, you have to prepare breakfast no matter what happens. I'll prepare dinner, and if I prepare breakfast, you won't have anything to do, will you?" My husband said he didn't want to eat breakfast, mother. He said he wanted to sleep more at that time. If he had said he wanted to eat, we would have eaten it even if we had to buy it. That's just something you do because you like it. And I've never skipped breakfast for our son. Why are you talking about buying breakfast? Suddenly, my mother-in-law asked me to prepare breakfast for my husband. But my husband and I had already agreed not to prepare breakfast, so I was very surprised. Although we worked at the same time, my mother-in-law was It's just different working hours, isn't it? If you look at it that way. Mom will be furious if she hears anything. How about just doing it roughly so that nothing comes out? I'll even buy side dishes. I'll just transfer them secretly to the plate and set them up. We're going to move to Seoul soon anyway. We'll move soon. Okay. I didn't want to cause any big problems in my married life from the beginning. So I decided to do it as my husband suggested. Even if it was difficult to the point where my body was breaking down during the days. When my children's exam periods overlapped, I still think I did my best from my perspective. At first, my husband bought side dishes and hid them in the refrigerator late at night. And I just had to add a little more, so breakfast itself wasn't a big problem. We had breakfast with my mother-in-law, sister-in-law, and husband. And the person who prepared it didn't even eat it, and just went back and forth to get more side dishes or water. However, my sister-in-law was even more annoying, saying that she hated it when I stopped her. Oh, don't think too hard. I did the same thing when I got married. Is it hard? Just do it roughly. Today's side dishes are too salty overall. Be more careful from now on. You'll get fat. I still remember how bitter it was. That I couldn't even manage my expression. However, the problem arose when we decided not to move my workplace to Seoul. I had to stay in Gyeonggi-do because of my academy and other reasons. And we didn't have enough time or money to look for a new house right away. So we decided to stay at my in-laws' house for the time being. My husband said he couldn't keep buying side dishes forever. So he demanded that I prepare breakfast from then on. And I ended up preparing breakfast from then on. Maybe because we were newlyweds, we endured it. There were many eyes watching us, and we didn't want to break up the family. The real problem was on weekends. I had to do all the housework on weekends. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law only did it once or twice on weekdays. And the rest was piled up. As soon as it became a weekend morning, I had to clean the house, do laundry, wash dishes, and my mother-in-law, sister-in-law, and husband watched TV and laughed, not lifting a finger. They didn't even look at me when I looked at my husband. Not only that, I had to cut the fruit and buy groceries for a week. At the mart on weekends. We all had to pay for the food. And do you know how much they nagged? While I was sweating and cleaning? When I was cleaning, they came over and said, "Is this all you can do for cleaning? What should I wear until tomorrow? Do the laundry." They even demanded that I do the laundry separately. All three of them just talked and didn't do anything. I couldn't tell my parents-in-law about. I'm so busy with work and even became a team leader. I can't even remember how time passes. This kind of life continued, and I was so stressed from my in-laws' house that I couldn't sleep well at night even though I was so tired. I even cried secretly in the bathroom. I think I even got depression and insomnia. So I secretly received counseling from a psychiatrist before going to work. Ironically, I felt a little better when I went to work. Do you know that it's because of you that I got anxiety disorder? One day, I couldn't stand it anymore and shouted at my husband. Can't I do anything else? Am I just a housewife? You're the only one who stays at home, right? I'm also busy with my academy and work, and it's physically exhausting. I have to wake up in the morning and make breakfast, and on weekends, I have to do all the housework after giving my children extra classes. Is this not a living hell? Who lives like this these days? Why doesn't my brother help me? What are you saying? There are many people like you. Why are you the only one complaining? What are you going to do when you have a child later? Are you going to complain again that it's hard to be a working mom? That's different. Even if it's my child, what are you doing? You're just playing at home. While you're playing, can't you at least do the laundry for the clothes you wear? How can you just put them down and go out to eat and sleep again? Why do you always take your parents' side whenever we talk about them? Why do you think I'm the only one complaining? Did you forget that we got married? Can't I help you a little? If we keep arguing, it'll never end. People will say that we're not a good match. Just do what you have to do, and let your mother and sister help you a little. They helped us get married, so we should give them some money, right? Why do I have to do it alone? Why do I have to do everything? You said you would help, but have you ever helped me? You said I just had to prepare breakfast by buying it. But did you help me after buying it a few times at the beginning? And why should I give them money? I'm working like a housekeeper here. So I should be paid instead. Stop it. It's really hard. Just do everything quietly. I don't want to worry about this and that. Work is also hard. No matter how much I talked to my husband, It was like talking to a wall. He seemed to think that I had to keep sacrificing for the sake of peace in the house. And no matter how much I thought about it, it was to want to continue even until the end. I didn't want to go through with the divorce. But I found myself searching for it online. It made me realize that all of my choices up until now were so sad. I tried my best to keep the family together. But there were some things that I couldn't do on my own. I talked to a divorce lawyer and gathered various evidence, such as the counseling sessions and prescriptions from the psychiatrist, as well as pictures and recordings of conversations about the difficult living situation. As I prepared for the divorce, I realized that it wasn't as hard to leave the house as I thought it would be. One day, while I was preparing to leave for my parents' house, the worst thing happened. It was the first holiday after getting married, and I was staying at my in-laws' house. Naturally, I spent the holiday there first, and my in-laws came over to have a meal and chat. Of course, I cooked all the food, and my mother-in-law and sister-in-law were busy serving the food. My husband came in occasionally and ate the food I made, or took some from the side. He didn't even offer any words of appreciation or encouragement. I just thought that these were the kind of people they were. So I saw off my in-laws and was about to leave for my parents' house. The holiday was 4 days long, including the weekend, and it was the last day of the holiday. Mom, brother, we're going to my parents' house now. They've been waiting for us. Even though it's the last day, we have to go. I'm also an only child, and the house feels empty without me. What are you talking about? Where are you going? We're going to my parents' house. We should leave now because it's getting dark. And it's hard to drive. What kind of holiday is this? You're supposed to be at the man's house. Don't you know that when you get married, you become an outsider? You have so much to do, like finishing the dishes. You can't go now. Then my sister-in-law chimed in, what? You're going to your parents' house on a holiday? You're supposed to be at the man's house. Did your parents not say anything? Your mother is never wrong. But you should tell your son-in-law. He'll understand that it's right to do it that way. At that moment, I couldn't take it anymore and brought up the topic of divorce to my husband. I couldn't stand these people anymore. Finish what? We saw off the in-laws, and I already did the dishes. What do you think, honey? I heard you're the owner here? Where did you lie? How can you run a big cafe? You're still the same, lying to adults and making money. You haven't changed at all, and I still think it was a good thing we broke up. At that moment, my husband got out of his Benz and walked into the cafe. I didn't want to deal with those people anymore. And I was getting really angry while they kept making fun of me. My husband saw my angry face and ran towards me, asking, "What's wrong, honey? Is everything okay?" "No. It's nothing, honey." I can't forget the faces of my ex-mother-in-law and ex-sister-in-law at that moment. They seemed surprised and embarrassed when they found out I was the owner's wife. I thought it wasn't a bad idea for my husband to know how I was living at the cafe. My ex-mother-in-law asked me again, "Why is that man calling you honey? What's going on?" "I married that man, Ulki. Didn't you know? He's the one I divorced with." "You said I married for money, didn't you?" "Yes, I know everything. You said you were going to trade in your old car for a Benz. Thanks to you, I was able to get a Benz. I really did marry that man. It was a close call. If I had lived with your son, it would have been hard. I still make 2 million won a month. But with the rising cost of living, it's not enough. I just have to eat a lot of rice." Don't say strange